listening to Night Callers Bigfoot.
Good evening and welcome to Night Callers Bigfoot Radio. You are here with your hostess, Lauren Smith. And tonight we're going to be chatting with Amy Bue, Bigfoot researcher, educator, and certified volunteer naturalist. But before we get into it, I would like to ask that you show some love for the hardworking Night Callers team by hitting that thumbs up on whatever platform you're using to listen to the show. And don't forget to subscribe and ring that notification bell for updates on new shows and content. You can find Night Callers Bigfoot Radio on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Reddit, or any podcast app of your choosing. I appreciate everything, all the support and all the views and likes and all the love that you show Night Callers. Thank you, everybody. And now we're going to go ahead and get to Miss Amy Bue. How are you doing tonight, Amy?
I'm doing so well. Thank you, Lauren. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I'm so honored that you're here. You know I'm a huge fan.
Thank you. And back at you.
Oh, thanks. So I actually met Amy for the first time this past October in Jefferson. And she was sitting there at her table, her able table. And I was talking to some paranormal gentlemen next to the table. They were very nice and telling them about my podcast and everything. And Amy had been sitting there and she said, "Oh, are you Lauren from Night Callers?" And I said, "Oh, yeah." And, I just thought it was so nice. She knew who I was, And she said, "Oh, I like your show." And I'm like, "Thank you." "And you are?" She said, "Amy Bue." You guys, I fangirled. Embarrassingly so. But I didn't, she had a mask on and I just didn't recognize her at all. Anyway.
And my hair has gotten a little grayer because of the COVID.
And I'm used to seeing her like with a ball cap and a ponytail and anyway, so I totally fangirled and we chatted and I want y'all to know she is just as nice in person as she comes across on video. Yes. You're a researcher, which is amazing, but you're a female researcher, which is even more amazing to me. As we know, I'm a huge fan of female researchers and supporting the female side of research. So Amy, being my favorite female Bigfoot researcher, is actually kicking off Ladies Month. So starting with Amy, for the next few shows, all the way until the end of January, we are going to have nothing but ladies on Night Callers to show all the amazing ladies who are out there in the field getting, down in the dirt, looking for evidence and, trying to bring some truth to the subject and good stuff. So you're a researcher, which is great. She is a certified volunteer naturalist, which is awesome, and a teacher of young minds, which is I have so much respect for teachers. I really do. And an educator. And that doesn't just mean for, public schools. That means, she educates through speaking engagements. She takes kids out in the field to take them into nature and teach them about that. She also educates adults on Bigfoot and all of her projects. So I think that's wonderful.
Thanks.
Wonderful.
I love it. I love doing what I do.
That's amazing. So what can you tell me about, how did you get started in the topic of Bigfoot?
Well, Bigfoot was not on my radar at all. So the fact that I'm here talking to you or doing all the different things I do, I wake up sometimes and I just laugh about it because it's such a path that I never thought I would be on. But in 2012, in April, I saw something that really changed the course of my life. And while I can't say, personally, I can't say that for sure, 100% I saw a Sasquatch, I think that is what I saw. I think it is. It was just far away.
Right.
So I was a passenger in a car going over a bridge, over a body of water in Ohio, of all places, and I definitely, if I had thought of Bigfoot, I would not think that it would be somewhere like that.
Right.
There were a lot of sightings in Ohio, and I saw something standing along the shore that I can't explain, and it was very large and especially very wide. It was definitely living because it moved, and it was holding onto a tree, looking out at these birds that were swarming around a cement block that was out in that water. And that's what drew my eyes there, because I was looking at the birds, and then I kind of just looked to the left. And I we were going over the bridge, and 50 miles an hour at least, I'd say. I'm not sure at the time. And when we got, right across from it, the closest to it that we could, it was still about 100 yards, I'd say. I'm not good at distances, but I've had other people.
I'm the same way.
So, I can't be 100% sure, but that's what it looked like to the extent that I yelled, I think I just saw Bigfoot.
Oh my gosh.
Yelled that in the car. And I knew what Bigfoot or Bigfoots or whatever you want to say were supposed to look like because of Harry and the Hendersons.
Right.
Or In Search of, I had written a report about the Loch Ness Monster when I was a kid, and there was some stuff about Bigfoot in that book, but I wasn't really interested, so I don't even remember if I read it. I saw a Bigfoot movie, at the theater when I think I was 8 years old. So I know what they were supposed to look like, but again, that was not anything that I was into or on my radar. So I was not out looking for Bigfoot. I just happened to see this thing. So that is what got me started, because once I got home, I started reading everything I could, doing, Google searches, and found out that body of water, it's called Meander Reservoir outside of Youngstown, Ohio, which is where I live now, that has been a known place for Bigfoot sightings. So other people have seen them there. They say that they have. I have given talks like through the local park there, the city park, and people have come up to me and said, we saw, there was a lady that said she saw one with a duck in its mouth, very specific, detailed reports about this. So I started reading all of these things, and then I went to some talks by some other people that were, interested in Bigfoot, and learned what I could, and flash forward. So it's been almost 9 years now, 8.5 years. Now I spend as much time on the Bigfoot topic as I do with the normal job.
That's amazing.
It really has become another job for me.
Right.
It maybe even more time on it between being out in the field, which a lot of people don't really know that I do that quite a bit, because I post too much on Facebook and Instagram and stuff, but I don't really post that research that I do. So being out in the field and I'm currently writing a book and working with my projects, put that all together, and it's taken up a big chunk of my life. So I always say, it doesn't matter to me whether what I saw that day was really a Bigfoot or not. It's what got me fascinated. It was the jumping off point for me, being fascinated with this topic.
That's amazing. I mean, yeah, you don't know if it was a Squatch or not, but it was enough to make you... First thing that came to mind was Squatch, and I'm sure you thought about it. I'm sure you thought about it over and over and over, and...
every time we go past that spot, I'm always looking. I'm looking.
Yes.
And one of the reasons you mentioned that I'm a certified volunteer naturalist in Ohio, one of the reasons that I did that whole program through Ohio State University is because you can often get into like restricted areas. And so I'm hoping like maybe someday I could go in there, because it's closed. Like I've never even seen a person there, because it's closed because of Homeland Security, the Department of Homeland Security.
Oh, okay.
So you can just go in there, it's all fenced and it's wild, and everybody wants to go fishing in there, but someday maybe I'll get to go look around in there.
Maybe. We'll see. You can always go. I mean, I for one, I volunteer to start a GoFundMe for bail money for Amy to go check that area. I mean, just like my shirt says, babes supporting babes, I'm down to bail you out of jail.
That could be on my bucket list. I mean, jail for a good purpose.
It's for science. It's for science.
That's right.
Amy, can you get a little bit closer to your mic? A little
Yes.
bit? Okay. All right. They're saying that you sound a little tinny.
Okay.
Could be my equipment. I'm not sure. Okay. So what did you think of Bigfoot before you had your sighting?
I didn't think much at all about the topic, but I didn't think it was real if I did. I thought, well, maybe it used to be real,
Used to
You
be.
know, maybe there used to be these things a long time ago. I just was interested in it as far as the mythology or folklore, because I like things like that, but not enough to really study it or anything like that. I was just a totally normal person going over that bridge that day and saw something, like I said, that changed the course of my life right now. So, yeah, if I thought about it at all, I definitely didn't think it was real.
Okay. Most people, you know, they say, oh, well, they just lived in the Pacific Northwest and, you know, the Patterson-Gimlin film, and that's all Bigfoot ever was to them, so.
Right. I mean, I guess if I would have thought about it, yeah, it would be out there, but I definitely didn't think that I didn't even know it was called the Patterson-Gimlin film.
Right.
I'm sure I'd seen snippets of it on In Search of or things like that, but didn't think it was real.
Okay. So I wanted to ask, so you had your sighting, and then what happened next? So did you go looking at reports? How did you get from that sighting to where you are now? Because it's right. Like, it's not even stair steps. You climbed Mount Everest. Right now you're speaking about Bigfoot.
I know, it's so funny. Well, I started Googling things and saw that, and then one of the first things that will pop up even today are the BFRO reports. So, you know, you search for Bigfoot and that pops up. And around that time, I think Finding Bigfoot was going, you know, back then, because it wasn't too long after that I started watching that, kind of like, okay, and I was impressed that Cliff was a teacher, you know, and I'm like, okay. And so it took me about a year before I submitted my report to the BFRO, and I finally did, because I thought it's a boring report. I don't even know if it's real, you know, like I don't even know what I saw for sure, so I didn't know if they would even accept that report or want to hear about it. But it ended up that they did, and so I met some people through submitting that report, went to hear some different people speak, started going to some conferences, things like that. And I guess it was about 2 years after I submitted my report, so it had been around, I think in 2015, if I'm right about that I was asked to join the BFRO. So I was a BFRO researcher for a few years. I'm no longer, but I was in there for a few years doing reports for them. So as I was doing their reports, I was also getting outside reports from other people. And then I started, you know, writing things. And then I started meeting other people. And I was like, I want to go look. Like, I'm a writer. Before I became a teacher, I was a writer. And I didn't want to do everything behind a desk, you know, so, or everything on the phone. So I started looking around, you know, where are there a lot of reports happening? And although Ohio, there's a lot, one of my favorite places on earth is the Allegheny National Forest in Pennsylvania. And there are a lot of reports out of a certain area in the Alleghenies that I had grown up going to, because my grandpa had a hunting cabin. So I'm like, you know what, I'm going to set up a research area out there. And I started slowly gathering some different equipment, like, you know, audio recorders and things, and camera traps. And I'm like, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to camp out there, and I'm going to learn, you know, try to figure out if anything's there. So I do have a spot of my own, you know, everybody talks about their research area.
Yeah, their sacred spot.
Yeah, so I do have a spot out there that I pretty regularly get to. And again, even some of my best friends don't know how often I'm out there, because it's just kind of my own thing that I do. Trying to see if lightning will strike again.
Yeah.
And will pop up, because other people have seen things. But I started, before that, you know, I decided I'm going to start camping. So before I could go there, I'm like, I'm going to start camping. And I had grown up going to that cabin, but I didn't camp in a tent, and I didn't know how to start a fire. I
Mm-hmm.
knew nothing. I was like so green. The first time that I tried to camp was actually a really funny story.
Oh my gosh. You have to tell it, though. You have to tell it.
It's so funny. Okay, so I went to hear somebody talk about Bigfoot at West Branch State Park in Ohio. And I went there by myself. I had my little one, maybe it was a 2-person tent, I guess. And I finally get my tent up. It took me forever because I didn't know what I was doing. I have my little chair and I have the fire pit. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't know how to start a fire. So I had brought with me like one Duraflame log. So I put that in the fire pit.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm nervous, even though the whole campground was full of people. And I think I got the last campsite. Now I know why it was the last campsite. I'll tell you later. But nobody else wanted it. But I finally, like, I couldn't even light the lighter. Like, I didn't even know how to light a lighter. So that took me forever. I get the Duraflame log lit, and I'm sitting there. And I'm like, oh, look at me. I'm camping. Finally, like, it's really dark, and I'm nervous, even though the people, like, not far.
Right.
And I crawl in my tent. And I was terrified, like, murdered. So I had brought with me this eeny-weeny little padlock. And, I zipped up the tent. I put the little padlock in the zipper of the tent, thinking, like, nobody's going to, like, knife through the nylon or anything.
Yep.
But I was able to sleep, and I woke up. My air mattress was actually floating. It had rained, and it was like the rain rained down into my campsite.
It never fails.
No, it never fails. But you know what? That was the day I was like, my life's going to change. I might never ever find Bigfoot or never see one, but I am going to try. Like, I can do this. I have to learn a lot.
Yes,
I learned a lot.
Yeah.
But I'm going to do this. So I was so proud of myself. So I had to start somewhere. Yeah. That's how I started.
It's a rite of passage. It is. You don't realize whenever you go out alone for the first time, it's scary. Like, the first time I ever went camping alone, I went alone. I took my dog and myself. And I went off into the woods. I didn't even go to a campground. I went off in the middle of the woods. And I had the worst experience. It was great until 4:30 in the morning when I had some people drop a car off below my campsite, where I was on a ridge, and they shot at it and set it on fire. And
oh my God.
I know.
Lord.
So that was my
my
induction into solo camping. But it is a rite of passage. You just have to do it, and you feel so accomplished afterwards. I think so. You and I had a discussion on being a woman and going into the woods, going camping, going out researching with people, male or female, and getting into this, and getting into the research, getting into this topic, and going out in the field as a woman. It's intimidating. It is very intimidating. And you had told me that you had become, first of all, you had boned up on your camping skills, and then that you'd become a certified naturalist so that you could figure out what the heck you were doing, and so that you could feel more safe in the woods by being able to take care of yourself.
Absolutely. So it wasn't just to sneak into or not sneak into that reservoir. It was also, so I feel strongly that if you are going to try to figure out if sounds or footprints or whatever could be a Sasquatch, you have to know what is not a Sasquatch. Mm-hmm. So you have to, like, learn about all these different animal calls and tracks. And so I'm still learning. That was just a jumping off point. I went through that. I started taking classes at a wonderful, wonderful place called the Midwest Native Skills Institute outside Cleveland, Ohio. And I want to take every class. So I'm just, a beginner there, really. But I want to be able to take care of myself. And I feel like, that first trip out, there were lots of people. All I would have had to do would be, like, help in there. Yeah. But if I'm going to go out by myself, I need to be prepared. I need to be responsible. I don't want people to have to be looking for me.
Yes.
You know, like, so
yes.
I feel that as strongly. So yeah, I've learned a lot of different things. One of the things that I feel has to do with being a woman that I've learned is my daughter and I were camping together, and she was a teenager at the time, and we were the only ones in this very remote campground. It was a state park, but it was like on the shady side of the park, like nobody ever camped there.
Right.
And we went on a hike, and we got back to our campsite around probably 2 a.m. It seems like everything happens then. And where you park the car to where you can set up your tent is pretty far. So we were starting to walk toward it, and I stopped her and I said, Anna, I don't feel right. Go back to the car. We're going back to the car. And she's like, Mom,
yeah.
I'm like, go back to the car. We'll wait till it's late, and then we'll go to our tent. And I don't know what it was, but we went back to the car. She slept. I tried. Didn't really sleep well. But when it got light out, I'm like, okay. So I woke her up. I'm like, let's get out of it. We're all cramped and everything. Let's go back to the tent. So when we got there, there were cigarette butts like all around our tent that hadn't been there before.
No.
So I always tell women or anybody, like, follow your intuition. I don't know if I smelled something or heard something, but I knew somebody was there.
Right.
Something. So that's after that is when I got my concealed carry and stuff.
Good. I was going to ask about that.
Yeah, so I am and I don't go out by myself often. I just do my one spot.
Right.
And, you know, that I'm very familiar with, and everybody knows that I'm there. I do go there quite often, but normally I go with somebody else just to be safe. But there's times when I don't listen to my own advice, and because I like camping by myself.
I know, me too.
I enjoy it. Like, it's so peaceful.
Yes.
In the middle of the night, I might be scared out of my mind, because I do. Because people will be like, "Oh, you're so brave." I'm like, "No, not really. I just do it anyway."
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm a good shot. The sheriff that did the class for us, she's like, "You're a better shot than my deputies." I'm like, yes. With me.
I mean, yeah. No, I'm the same way in the respect of it was so peaceful. It's so peaceful. I mean, I remember laying in my hammock with my dog, and it was January or February, and it was 20 degrees, and there was frost on everything, and I'm laying there, and I said, I'm addicted. I was like, I'm doing this all the time. I'm never going out with anyone again. Like, it's just going to be me forever. This is amazing. And then that stuff happened, and it was like,
yeah, that's scary.
Yeah, it was scary, but you know, I got to get back on the horse and go do it again. That's all there is to it.
Have you ever read the book or seen the movie Wild about Cheryl Strayed?
I don't think I have.
Changing. You should watch. I'm a reading teacher, so I
yes.
I love the movie, so I watched the movie before I read the book.
Yeah. But
she went on that. She hiked the Pacific Crest Trail by herself. Yeah. And she was not experienced at all.
Right.
And I just remember, like, one of the quotes, and I'm paraphrasing, is that, you know, especially women, like, we're afraid. Like, we can't help it. You know, especially, you know, I've been through things that have made me afraid. And so, but you gotta tell yourself a different story that you're not afraid and you can do it. And, you know, I have friends and even relatives that get angry at me if I'm out there by myself. But I'm like, I personally am taking the risk because it's worth it to me. So I love it. And so do I do it all the time? No. Am I extremely careful? Yes. Yeah. But I love being out there.
Right. Right. And to me, that's what's worth it, is being out there and that peace and the confidence that I have in myself after I'm done. I mean, it's a rite of passage. You have to do it at least once. And the more you go out, the more you learn about your environment, about yourself, your limits, you know, how far you can push yourself. Yeah, definitely. You know, it's very important, but it's also important to be safe. You know, when I went out, I had told somebody where I was going, exactly, you know, if you don't hear from me by noon, call in the dogs. Like, I mean, I was prepared. I had my gun. I was ready. And whenever I I text that person whenever that was going on. I hid under my sleeping bag and texted him real quick, and he had his phone by his head, and the minute it went off, he texted me back, and he was like, all right, I called the sheriff, I'm on my way. I mean,
good.
So I had safeguards in place, but...
You can get a personal GPS device.
Yes, the Garmin InReach or something.
But I'm not, like I said, I've been through some things in my past where, I have a reason to be scared.
Right.
I'll just put it that way.
No, yeah.
But I'm just not going to live that way. Like, I'm not going to, I'm going to do what I want to do. I'm also stubborn.
Same. I caught so much crap from my male friends and female, but mostly males. I mean, to the point where later on they apologized. They were like, man, I was a total jerk. Like, I'm sorry that I yelled at you about going out alone. And I'm like, I mean, I see it as you're coming from a place of caring. But if my husband's okay with it, you really don't, like, as even you're my friend, but you don't have the right to be upset with me. I'm sorry.
No, we're smart.
Yeah, we're smart. I mean, women, we are programmed from when we are small to watch our surroundings. We are programmed, to always be on the lookout behind us, in front of us, around us. If we are in the parking lot and a white van is parked next to our car when we come out from the store, we don't get in our car because there's a white van there. We don't park next to the white van. If we notice someone following us in the store, we take note of that. Women are trained from a very young age. We live in a different world. And so in the woods, I don't know about you, but I'm even more cautious in the woods, because my biggest fear, besides humans, is a cat. I'm scared that I'm going to be stalked by a cat, and I'm not going to know it. That is my biggest fear.
Yeah.
I mean, that's because I don't live in bear country. If I lived in bear country, I might be scared of that. I don't know.
Depending, like Pennsylvania, I've met a lot of black bears in my adventures, but they don't bother you. Like, not that I would, like, hey, come on over here, bear, but they usually disperse. If you're out west and you get to some of those bears, no,
pass. Pass.
But the cats scare me too, and people.
Yeah.
And I get it. I have friends, like I said, same as you. I have friends that are worried. I acknowledge their worry. I am as safe as I can be. I don't go out by myself somewhere I've never been. I used to, but now, like, if I'm in a totally unfamiliar area, I would want to be with somebody else first.
Right.
To an extent, like if I'm just camping, that's one thing. If I'm hiking around in the middle of the night, I'm not going to go out by myself and get hurt, and you have to have some rescue come find you.
Right. That's my biggest fear, is I'm going to have to. I have a pride issue, and I'm scared I'm going to have. I mean, texting him that morning, I laid there for a good 20 minutes before I texted him because I hate admitting defeat. I mean, I have this pride issue, and it's going to be my downfall. I already know that.
Well, maybe not. You're just some stubbornness like that.
Stubborn.
It keeps us safe to some extent, I think.
It does. Patrick Vaughn in the chat said, "Be prepared, have a plan, and be armed." And I mean, that's perfect. You can't say it better than that. You can't. And
now with this Midwest Native Skills Institute, when I finally get to take all the rest of the classes, a lot of it didn't do this year because of COVID.
Right.
Like their final exam, if you want to call it that, is that you are taken out in the woods, you have a knife, a blanket, and whatever you're wearing, and you have to survive for a week. And, you have to make shelter and your food and water and fire. And I'm like, I'm going to do it. Me and my girlfriend log, I'm going to do it.
Right.
So I'm determined.
I can picture you smuggling that log, like, in your pants on the way out there. I can't. Like, she's got like dryer lint, like, puffed in her pockets. That's an exciting graduation. It's nerve-wracking, of course, because surviving out there, I can take all my food and everything and I'm still nervous. Yeah. But it's also so exciting because when you get done.
So well. Yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Because
he's training us like we do wild and edible medicinal plants and every season. And, he's just awesome, our trainer. So, yeah.
That's awesome.
And when I get done, I'm going to be so proud of myself.
Oh,
so I love having goals I didn't have goals for a long time because I was kind of in a miserable situation for a lot of my life.
Right.
So now they excite me. So yay.
No, that's amazing. And I think you're going to feel such a sense of accomplishment when you're done.
And I do still use door flame logs if they're around.
I do. I make my little dryer lint candle wax fire starters, and I use them. So I went camping with some friends in Kentucky, 5 guys, great guys, and it had been snowing, a blizzard when we went in, and then the snow melted. We could not get a fire started or going and staying lit to save our lives. And so now, used to, I was so cocky. I'd be like, yeah, I'm starting it with a magnifying glass or, like friction burn. Yeah, And now I will get my little dryer lint out and, and I have no shame. I have no shame. I'm like, I'm sorry. Y'all can do that over there. I'm going to be warm. And then I was talking to Spencer Jameson. Actually, I texted him the last time I went camping. And, everyone that I went with had brought like beds of firewood. And they were just chunking it in the fire and building this bonfire. And so when we were out there in Kentucky, like, we could not keep that fire sustained. And I remember I texted him and I said, these people are so greedy with the firewood. It's freaking me out. Like, I have PTSD from that trip because, we could not get that fire to stay. It was awful. Anyways. Yeah. Okay, so
there's no shame in the dryer lint things. Like, you didn't know how to do it otherwise, but if you have, use them, people.
Yes, like, work smarter, not harder.
Yes.
Save your energy. Because calories are few in the woods. All of that. Okay, so you said that you have goals. Speaking of goals, you have ABLE, which is your bucket list. What can you tell me about that?
I love it. ABLE it stands for Amy's Bucket List Expeditions. And I probably shouldn't have named it. I was thinking, my mom helped me. I was thinking of an acronym, that would work. Because people often ask me, like, oh, an expedition, where can I sign up? But it's not really that I offer expeditions. I just go on my own.
Right, right.
If anybody wants to come with me, they're welcome. But it's what I do all of my work, especially with kids under. I do a lot of events for Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts,
That's awesome.
4-H youth groups. And so that's under my ABLE umbrella.
Right.
Do things at libraries. Mm-hmm. I was asked to speak at a library in Boardman, Ohio several years ago, and that kind of just shot me forward. Yeah. I was surprised. I'm like, okay, I guess I'll do it. I'm a teacher, so I'm not scared to talk in front of people, but I don't even remember how they got my name or anything.
Right.
But I went to that library, and I think I might have told you this story before about the guy who came to that talk that wasn't supposed to be there.
I think so.
Well, I'll tell you again.
Yeah, tell me again.
That's really what started this all for me. So I'm doing this library talk, and a lot of people came not because it was me, I always say, but because Bigfoot is fascinating.
Right.
So this gentleman came up to me. I was talking to people afterwards, and he came up to me at the end, and he just looks at me, and he's like kind of shaking his head, and he said, I came to the wrong talk. He said, you were here talking about Bigfoot, and down the hall was the lady talking about the birds of Costa Rica.
Oh.
And he said, I came here to listen to that talk, and it ended up he was like one of the heads of the Audubon Society in our area. And he said, I decided, I'm going to stay and listen to this lady because she's probably crazy and it's going to be good for a laugh, and I'll tell everybody, oh man. He said, I am fascinated by this.
Oh, that's awesome.
And we started talking about it, and he's like, I'm going to tell my boss about you, and I'd love for you to come speak to the Audubon Society.
That's wonderful.
I know. I'm like, okay, I'm an okay person. I'll be somebody else like, okay, I'll do it.
Yeah.
And so he did. He contacted me. His boss was very skeptical, but I show up at this talk, and there's all these Audubon Society people, bird watching people, and they're like, I really thought I was gonna get rotten tomatoes.
No.
I was more nervous for that talk than I've ever been, I think. even up till now. And
I could see
they
that.
were wonderful. They were wonderful because I talked a lot about the Olympic project, which now I'm part of. At the time, it was just, I was fascinated with it. Talked about methods that we use when we're out in the field. And they were like, that's the same thing we do. Like, we wait and, we're looking for something. And we talked about the ivory-billed woodpecker that isn't supposed to be around anymore.
But
and so his boss came up to me at the end and he's like, I thought this was going to be stupid. But Bigfoot is fascinating.
It is.
It is. So from that talk, I was asked to do something for the Ohio Division of Wildlife. They have an expo every year, and I really thought, like, first I was like, really? And then I thought I was going to be the entertainment, like, for kids or something. They put my table right between, I think I was between coyotes and dragonflies, and here I am with my Bigfoot stuff, and I'm like,
oh my gosh.
Like they're taking it seriously.
Right.
So, that got me a lot of other opportunities. So Able, anyway, is my umbrella.
Right.
And I do a lot of that work with. And I have a bucket list. I started it because I know that I am a cancer survivor twice.
Twice over.
And twice over. Happy to be here. And when I started, getting brave with that Duraflame log and everything, and I'm like, I want to do things. Like, I want to start living my life again. And it was that summer that my older brother passed away. And that was kind of the impetus that I was like, okay, I want to do things. I've been given this time. I don't know how much. I'm doing well. 20-something years since I've had cancer the second time. Thank you, God. And I'm like, I don't know. None of us know how much time we have. So I want to do stuff. So it happens to be that a lot of the things I want to do have to do with Bigfoot, but not everything.
Right.
I have lots of other things on there, too, that I want to do.
That's awesome. I mean, that's amazing that, you've survived twice, first of all, and that you're taking it and making your life what you want it to be. That's amazing. Very motivating.
I'm very blessed. I'm very blessed, and I'm proud of myself.
Yeah.
Like, people don't want to say that, but I am. I'm proud of, like, what I dug myself out of, and that I'm daring to do these things, and I want everybody to do that.
Right.
Like, if I can inspire anybody to go, I don't care what it is you like to do. I like to go see if I can find Bigfoot.
Right.
But, my number one thing on my bucket list is to be in a demolition derby.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. I mean, I can understand that. I think, because go-karts are fun, and the little, the things at the fair. What are they called? Bumper cars. Like, those are okay, but I mean,
I want to crash into people. Last year said he's going to fix me up a car, but this year, the fair what isn't held, so maybe next year I'll get to do that.
Well, I hope you get to do it soon, and I think there would be no better tension release than, like,
that'd be fun.
Wrecking somebody's car that's not yours.
I know, right?
Okay, so a lot of people in the chat want to know about Project Zoobook. Okay. They have been very patient, and they've been asking.
Oh, I love it. I say about everything, but Project Zoobook is my favorite. I am so proud of the people in Project Zoobook and just what we've created together. I am the co-founder of it, but it is all of us together. It's just the best group of people. So basically, I met online by accident a young lady who was interested in going on a Bigfoot expedition. Ended up that she wasn't able to go, and she was disappointed, but I said to her, and I was messaging with her. I wasn't Facebook friends, knew nothing about her. But like you, I love when women are interested. Absolutely. So I try to encourage it. Absolutely. So I said, well, if you live anywhere around here, and even if you don't, I travel a lot, I'll take you. She said she and some friends at her work were interested in Bigfoot. I'm like, you can come with me. I mean, I'm not going to charge you anything. Just come camping.
Right.
I'm like, it's not like rocket science. You just go camping and you hope something happens, basically, So, and it usually doesn't. So, but long story short, it ended up that she and her coworkers were not teachers like myself at the time or anything like that, but they were all the primate department of a zoo.
Oh,
so
that's
yeah,
amazing.
I know. So I'm like, what?
I would have been so excited.
I was like, oh my gosh. So I'm like, oh, I just wasn't used to that. And she said,
Right.
yeah, we take care of gorillas and chimps and all of these things. And while we're doing our work, like cutting up their food or whatever, they would play podcasts like Sasquatch Chronicles and Monster X and different podcasts. And they were all interested. So they wanted to get into Bigfoot. And I'm like, okay. So what happened was she and myself, we started chatting, and I was supposed to be speaking out in Oregon, and I didn't know, like I was asked to talk out there, and I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to talk about. Like there was, like Peter Byrne was going to be there. And,
oh my gosh,
and
yeah.
I'm like, what am I going to talk about? Like I go out in the woods and I don't find anything. like,
right,
I'm the worst
yeah.
Bigfooter ever. So I asked her, like, do you have any like suggestions, like an angle, like the primate angle that I can look into? Well, it ended up like being this big discussion, and then other people joined in, and I asked other people to join in, and basically we're now like a think tank, we call ourselves.
That's awesome.
Where we have, it's so awesome. We have researchers, but we also have now after these years, we have anthropologists, primatologists, zoologists, like she is. We had an entomologist join us on a call. I don't know. I still don't exactly know. I was hoping it was like some Jurassic Park type thing. He had Bigfoot DNA, but no, he was wonderful. Lots of biologists, wildlife biologists, so many very smart people that are interested in Bigfoot. Not all of them are believers, if you want to say that, but I'm not. Like I think Bigfoot is real, but I'm not 100%. And I enjoy skeptics, and I welcome them. We all do, and but every last one of them who has joined a call or done something with us has said the same words. We had no idea there was so much going on. We had no idea there were all of these sightings and people actually doing scientific research.
Yes.
They didn't know. And so it's exciting. So we do our Zoom calls now.
That's awesome.
Some of us have gotten together. Two of the main primate zoologists flew out with me to the Olympic Project Nest site 2 years ago. We were supposed to go this year, but that got canceled because of COVID. But, they're getting involved. And so it's so exciting. So exciting.
That's amazing.
And it's a big reason I do podcasts and things like this, because that's a way that I have gotten a lot of scientists involved.
That's awesome. I mean, I think that when I first heard about it and heard everything that was going on, all I could think to myself was like, that's brilliant. Like that's what we need. We need to tap all these different areas of science and kind of, I don't remember the word that I thought of, but kind of like, feel them out and see if we can use any of that information to apply to this topic.
Yeah, we are. Like we're going to be applying for different grants and things. We're starting a website, Facebook page where we want people to be able to like ask specific scientists specific questions.
Right.
And at first, it was very under the radar. Nobody knew about it. And I was fine with that.
Right.
I kind of become the face of it because a lot of our scientists, especially then, didn't want to be out in public because they could get in trouble.
Right. Yeah,
at a zoo or a university, we have a college professor,
right.
They can get in trouble for that. We have marine biologists in our group. And I came up with the analogy because somebody's like, well, why would they get in trouble? And I said, well, to a lot of people, a wildlife biologist or a primate zoologist or an anthropologist telling their boss that they are interested in looking for Bigfoot would be the same as one of our marine biologists telling their boss they're going to go look for SpongeBob.
Or the Loch Ness Monster or something, plesiosaurs.
But they're like even worse than that. Like they think of Sasquatch as a cartoon.
Like
they're like, this is stupid. Yeah. So they're really risking their reputations. But we have, come a long way, I guess. And we have always said, Shane Corson from the Olympic Project,
Love
he's
him.
a good friend of mine. I know he's the best. He often talks about Dr. Bindernagel and his dream of wanting the subject of Bigfoot to be less taboo. So we've kind of been one of the groups that have taken up that torch and are running with it. And I know we're not the only ones out there, you know, that are involved in science. There's so many good groups and individuals that are doing the same thing, but it's just the only thing that I've been involved in. So I get really excited about it.
Oh, absolutely. You know, that's, there are just so many people that they think Bigfoot's a joke and they don't understand, you know, and I always tell, you know, first of all, when I talk to people, I said, you know, if you're gonna, you know, make jokes, I don't really want to talk to you, but if you have questions, I am happy to answer them. And I tell them, Bigfoot researchers are the biggest skeptics there are. I said, a good Bigfoot researcher will, you know, deduce every single possible thing that it could be besides a Bigfoot until they get to the last thing. And if there's nothing that it could possibly be, then we say it is possibly a Bigfoot.
It could be, yeah.
It could be, you know.
Like Sherlock Holmes, that's what Sherlock did. And so we're doing the same thing.
And I tell people that.
Another reason I got, you know, went through the OCVN, the Certified Volunteer Naturalist program, is that I can go somewhere and I can do a Bigfoot program, but I can also do one on insects or whatever, or tracks or whatever. And when I talked to, like, I talked to the entire biology department at a university, a state university, and I was talking to them about Bigfoot, and I said, you know, whether or not you think it's goofy or you think that it couldn't even be true, why not harness the power of these people that are out in the forest an awful lot? And we might never, you know, I'm prepared to never find anything, but we might, and it might not be Bigfoot. We might find a new insect or a new flower,
species
or something like that. So why not use us? So
absolutely,
I'm trying to take that angle, if you will.
Absolutely. No, that's a great way to put it. And, you know, I actually had this conversation recently, is that whenever Bigfoot is proven to exist, we will go from researchers to conservationists. We will be the first on the forefront, you know, saying, we got to protect these habitats. Here's all the information we have to protect them. This is what we know. And I think that's extremely important. Yes, we might have to have a specimen to prove it. And you know, hopefully, I'm hoping someone stumbles across one, throws it in the back of their pickup, and yay, here we go.
Find one that died peacefully.
Yes. You know, it was startled by a hunter and it was old and it keeled over. You know, I'm okay with that. But I'm not saying, you know, but I'm just saying, like, we are going to be the conservationists. Like, we will switch all of us from researchers to conservationists. And I think there's a lot of groups that are already dedicated to that. That's, you know, their aim, and that's amazing. I mean, but I do agree. You know, I used to do this segment on Night Callers a million years ago called Footers in the Field. And every week I would cover a new species that had been found, whether it was in Brazil or America or England, you know. And we're finding new species all the time, and we're all out there in the woods. I mean, so they should use us, you know, send us out and, hey, you guys report back with findings on what's going on with the flora and fauna of, you know, Ohio, you know?
Right. And you can do like these micro studies, and that's, you know, in Project Zoobook, we've been talking about that, like setting up, and we already do that. You know, I'm in the Olympic Project group now, but, you know, Shane and Derek are out there, and they're out in Pacific Northwest doing their thing. And we have a lot of crossover because Shane's in Project Zoobook and I'm in the Olympic Project. So there's a lot of crossover, and then I'm doing my thing in the Alleghenies, and then we have people doing their things here and there and whatever. And then if we can hook them up with different scientists that are interested in a certain area or a certain thing, you know, they're kind of advising us from behind the scenes, and then they're also joining us. So
that's awesome.
It's really fun.
I bet that's so educational. Like, I'm just a sponge for knowledge. I there's a saying that if you know, think you're done learning, you might as well just, you know, up and die, because you should always be wanting to learn. You should be a continual learner until the day you pass. And especially when it comes to nature, I feel like you can never know everything that's out there in the woods. You can never know everything. And everything you learn will help you. For me, I'm so bad about this, but everything I learn helps me be a better researcher. You know, like I'll learn some fact on National Geographic about, I don't know, I don't even remember. I was watching it with my son, and there was some animal that did something, and I was like, ooh. I was like, I bet I could apply that to Bigfoot research, you know?
Right.
I have an addiction. I am an addict. I'm a Bigfoot research addict.
Yes, me too.
Yes. Okay. So Project Zoobook is obviously amazing. I'm very grateful that you're doing this and that you are the face, that you've made the sacrifice to be the face of Project Zoobook. And I can't wait to see what success it brings us and what, education it can bring us.
Thank you. I mean, I've had a lot of blessings from it. I've got to travel a lot of places. So, I just never set out to be a speaker or anything like that.
Right.
So I'm happy to do it. Don't get me wrong. It's just wasn't something that I ever thought of.
Right.
So,
yeah.
But a lot of blessings, personal blessings, and just getting to work with these people. So it's not been a bad thing at all. It's been all good.
That's awesome. Okay. I wanted to talk about an upcoming project of yours, and then I will ask the questions from the chat because they have been so patient. So you're writing a book. Mm-hmm. I am so proud of you, and I'm so excited. Like, what can you tell me about this book?
Oh, I get a little emotional.
I know.
So basically, I had met a gentleman several years ago at a Bigfoot event that I had an inkling that he might have a story inside of him. Mm-hmm. So his name is Tom Page, and a lot of people have heard of him and a lot of people haven't. Mm-hmm. But basically, he was a benefactor, if you want to put it that way, both Roger Patterson and Peter Byrne.
Right.
After Tom Slick died. A lot of people know about Tom Slick, the millionaire Texas oilman who funded a lot of things.
Right.
Well, Tom Page came along after that, and he was very well-to-do himself, and he was known. He even got an award, in recognition from Lauren Coleman's museum and stuff because he, helped fund these different expeditions and things. Well, I had a hunch that maybe he didn't just fund them, maybe he knew more
right.
than we knew he knew. So It took me 2 years to find him. I had met his girlfriend at a Christmas party, and then they disappeared, and I didn't know where he went. And I called he was elderly, although I am too now. I feel like
no.
I don't even go, but I don't even like that word. But
right, right.
So I called, I think, every single assisted living or nursing home in the greater Cleveland area.
Oh my
gosh! That's where I heard through the grapevine that he was.
Right.
And all of them would tell me they couldn't tell me if he was there, but they could tell me if he wasn't there. So I was checking them off and couldn't find him. I know it was how they would word things, and they're like, I can tell you he is not here. So
HIPAA.
I don't know what they would have said.
I get it. Okay.
I don't know what they would have said otherwise, but I just kept looking, and finally, very by chance, if you look at all of my stories or things I've done, it's always an accident just happened. I don't really believe in that. I think I feel like there's a path laid out for me.
Absolutely.
And I'm just following as best I can. But so I found him and I called him up and I said, Mr. Page, you probably don't remember meeting me, but my name's Amy and I would just love to meet you. Would you ever want to talk about your Bigfoot experiences or the time that you spent with Roger Patterson? And I had no idea what he was going to say.
Right.
And I'll just never forget. He's it's a phone call. And he's like, I would just be tickled to death to talk to someone.
That's amazing.
He said, and he was in his late 80s at the time.
Right.
And he said, nobody ever wants to talk about that. So
awesome.
I found him and I started going to lunch. I would take him to lunch at his favorite restaurant, drive up to where he was. My mom came with me some of the time, and I was able to meet one of his daughters and another family member because I wanted them to know, like, I'm not this crazy lady.
Right. You're not trying to take him for a ride.
Of your dad or anything.
Yeah.
So got their blessing to talk to him.
Good.
And we just spent hours over our hot turkey sandwiches and chocolate cake and big things of milk. He was telling me stories, and I was right. He wasn't just the money.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he was a big game hunter, and he was very interested in the Yeti when, you know, those expeditions back in the 60s and stuff were going on. And then when the Patterson-Gimlin film came out and we were supposed to have something here, he's like, I can just focus here. And so he did spend a lot of money on helping Roger before Roger passed away, and then Peter. But he went too. So he did this so he could go along. Gotcha. So he was with them during a lot of the things that they were doing. And so I just have story after story of different experiments they tried and tactics that they did. And he allowed me to record him telling these stories as well. So that's awesome. You know, we would get together as often as we could. We were writing it together, basically. And then earlier this year, he passed away unexpectedly. And so I took some time away from writing it because he became like a grandpa.
Yeah,
he
right.
Really
you get
did.
close to
I just
people.
Loved him. And so I'm like, I don't know if I can finish this without him, and not knowing if there's anything I hadn't learned, you know. And but now I'm back at it, and I'm like, okay, it might not be perfect. It, you know, maybe he would have said things better, but I'll do my best to make it good for him.
I mean, it's an honor that you get to share his story, and I think that you're the best person to do that. And I'm not trying to make you cry. I'm sorry, but I think that you're supposed to share it. You're supposed to continue on, and I think you're going to do a great job, and I cannot wait for you to publish. And of course, I will promote your book through my show and all of my different projects. You know, that's wonderful. And I mean, I think it's going to be a great book because nobody's heard these stories.
Right.
These are fresh.
Not that I know of. You know, he gave me some film footage and different things. And, one of the things he gave me was something I asked Todd Prescott, who's like the guru of all the historical films and stuff, you know.
Yes, he is.
About it. And so he knew about that one, and he's actually been able to share some of it, which makes me happy because I wasn't sure what to do with it. Like, I'm like, obviously I don't want to make any kind of a profit off of it. I just wanted people to be able to see it.
Yes.
I feel like it's important. And so I'm kind of glad Todd's running with all that stuff.
Right. Yeah.
Takes it off my shoulders.
Right.
But I do have some other things that I'm still being, I don't know what's on these film reels and stuff that I'm getting put on to getting them restored.
Right.
So we'll see what's on there. But
that's going to be awesome.
I feel very blessed again, and just to have known him.
Oh, absolutely. I'm so glad that you were able to get to know him in addition to getting this story. You know, it makes it even more important that you publish this story and his side of things and his works, you know. Okay. Okay, let's get to the questions real quick. Sorry. Cryptidville, Mark. Mark Maycheck. He said, what has been your creepiest/scariest experience while investigating?
Oh, boy. I'm always creeped out. But I'm always creeped out, like, not for legitimate reasons. Like, I scare myself all the time. I'll tell you. I was at an expedition in 2018 in southern Ohio. And this, I would call my second possible sighting, because the first one was from too far away to be sure. And this one was through a FLIR camera. So it was, again, I'm not positive what it was, but it was dark. There were 4 of us sitting. We were a seated team. I had been the one traipsing through the woods the night before that and the night before that. So we were going to leave, but there were some people that still wanted to go out that night, and it was drizzly and yucky. But my friend, who was holding the expedition asked if I would stay. So I said, of course I'll stay.
Right.
So I was there with this seated team, and a lot of things happened. Like we smelled something strange, and I was hearing some footsteps, and that really creeped me out because down where the footsteps were coming from, there was a cemetery, and I'm like, I am not out here for ghosts.
No.
I'm out here for Bigfoot. So, but it was just kind of unsettling. It was dark, you know, and I was sitting on the like tailgate or whatever of the one guy's truck, and he had a FLIR, like a FLIR Scout, just a small one.
Yeah.
And this gentleman, he's a friend of mine, and he was only there to support his wife, who really wanted to be there. Just like Lester, my fiance, was one of the people there, and he was only there to support me. So like the two women, we're like the ones running, and the guys were like, So he's looking through the FLIR though, and all of a sudden, like this very quiet man, he just jumps up and like almost hit his head. And he's like, oh my gosh, like, what is that? And he's like, Amy, come here, look at this. And I didn't want to take it because, you know, like if you are bird watching or something, you're not supposed to move the binoculars because then you might lose it. So I'm like, you just keep looking at it. He's like, no, you got to see this. So I look, and we were at the top of a cut that had like radio towers, you know, and so it went downhill to this like river and then back up the other way. So we were at a power line cut. We were at the top sitting there. So I'm looking, and walking down the power line cut was this really large figure, and it was, you couldn't miss it.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like you could, well, where is it? It was there. And so I didn't know what to do, and we were going back and forth, and it got down that pretty quickly. Like from the first part that we saw it, we knew it was like the second tower down, and you could see the residual heat still on the stone base of the tower. Right. And so it was there, and then it zipped down this cut, and I've been there in the daytime, and I know you can't go that fast, so it was booking down. And the craziest part, I happened to be looking through the FLIR when it got to where the river embankment is, and it just went right over. And a person could possibly get down there, but you'd have to turn around and like hold on to things and try not to fall. And it just like disappeared over that. And so we were just like, oh my God, like, and this is a place that there have been a lot of sightings again. I wasn't expecting to see anything. The other team, one of the other teams, had been coming through the woods and was supposed to come out on the other side of that river, but they weren't there yet. Okay. They finally made it, so they're FLIRing on their side. We were trying to see anything that we could see from our side. The guy in charge, he said, just stay where you are, like, don't go down there. Like, my stupid maybe inclination was to go down, there and like try to find it. I mean, I would have done the same thing. But while they were coming back, like they had to get in their cars and come back to us. Lester, God bless him, he was our guinea pig because Jesse, he doesn't mind if I use his name. He and I were like, okay, well, we want to kind of see if we can tell how big this thing was while it's fresh in our mind. Absolutely. So Lester walks down, and we're like, keep going. So he gets to that second tower, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like he's so little, like he was nothing. And on those scouts, like you can't zoom in or out, like it is what it is. And so I was like, come back.
What a trooper. What a trooper he is.
Oh, it's so sweet. So he comes back, and then the other team gets here, and in that team, a very good friend of mine, his name is Kevin, and we call him Big Kevin because he is 6'9", I believe, very tall guy.
He's a Bigfoot.
And so we started doing some experiments with him and some of the other guys. Like we would look at them through the FLIR, and they would hold up 2 fingers, or you know, they'd be standing next to each other or whatever. And we're like, we can see it's you. Like you're not fooling us. Like we can tell it's a person. There were deer behind us. You could tell they were deer. This thing, we could not figure out what it was. So we put Kevin down to that first spot that we saw it. And I've never, Lauren, never in my life felt like I was in like an Elizabethan novel. I've never fainted before. And I didn't faint, but I had to grab Jesse and like my knees buckled.
Right.
I'm like, oh, like Kevin's 6'9", and it was way bigger.
Oh my gosh.
And way wider than him. So what we did, and I think it was a really good thing, David, who is the head of things, he's like, okay, I don't want you and Jesse to talk. So he separated us. Lester and I ended up going to a hotel that night because we had already taken down our tent and everything. We were going home. And so, but he wanted to like interview us and stuff. So we got a hotel in the next town. We had to drive a bit.
Right.
And Jesse and I didn't talk. Nobody talked to each other for a good, at least 2 weeks. It might have been 3. And right away when I was all muddy and gross, but I sat down at the desk in that hotel and I wrote down everything I could remember.
Good.
And I drew a picture.
Good.
And then Jesse did the same back at their camper, I think they had. And everything matched up and our pictures were very similar.
That's so good.
It was just like, ooh, and getting like, even though like the practical side of me that wants to be super, super, honest about things and not jump to conclusions says I don't know what it was.
Right.
It makes me like, oh,
yeah.
excited because I can't explain it.
Right.
What it looked like was a walking Christmas tree almost. Like you could see the movement of arms and legs, but it wasn't like this pointy, but it was pointier and broad, like going down to broad shoulders. And we both had the same picture.
That's awesome.
And I was trying to gauge like how tall it was. And in my picture, I drew Lester. I drew the radio tower. I drew Lester, Kevin, and this thing, like pretending they were all standing there at the same time.
Right, yeah.
And I drew Lester's head hitting right to Kevin's shoulder. Because in my head, that would be about right.
Right.
Well, a few days later, we got a photo of everybody that had been at that expedition, and Lester was standing in front of Kevin and his head hit right at his shoulder.
Oh, that's awesome.
I know. So I like that at least.
It validated that, yeah.
And then this other thing was way bigger. But
right.
Yeah, that was, I mean, it was very exciting, but it was definitely creepy,
that's
being out there by ourselves and rainy and something was smelly and footsteps and it's scary.
It's scary. That's an awesome encounter though, and I love that you immediately wrote it down, and so did Jesse. I tell people that all the time. If you have an encounter, write every single detail down immediately, because your brain is going to try to talk you out of it. You are going to start making, you'll start trying to make allowances and, oh, well, that was just this, and maybe I didn't see this, and
and we tried to think anything it could be. Like you said, you tried to think anything else it could be. Like, could it have been a deer going straight and its head was up? And no,
that's too thick.
No.
Yeah.
You just try to think. To me, all it could have been was a Sasquatch or somebody faking that they were one with some big rig thing. I don't know, but just how it showed up in the FLIR, it was very, it was hot all over. Not like somebody wearing clothing. Yeah. So
that's amazing. And I think, it's hard to get definitive proof. It's difficult, but those little things like that are little gems that keep us going.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, have you ever experienced anything paranormal while you've been out researching, like orbs, lights, ghosts, anything like that?
Yes. Once. I don't think I've said this yet on tonight. I am a primate girl. I think that if Bigfoot exists, that they're probably primates. But I don't know if I'm right. I don't have a problem with people that think otherwise. Sometimes you get people in the community that fight about it, and I'm like, there are all kinds of things we don't know about and don't understand. So if somebody else comes along and they can prove it's an alien or if it's supernatural, I do not have a problem with that. It's just that I'm interested in apes. I'm interested in gorillas and is there a connection or something. So that's just what I focus on. So I just wanted to say that. I haven't had a lot of things happen, but one time in Kentucky, and we were kind of taking a break because we had been hiking around and get tired. and there was a red light that was over, like I'm sitting there, so over to my left, kind of in the distance, just a little bit. And I just absolutely knew it was one of us standing there. Like maybe they had a camera. It looked like a, what do you call that? Like a infrared, or not infrared. Mm-hmm. Like a laser light or something, or something that was clicking from an LED light. That's what it looked like. And I thought somebody was standing there. So somebody asked, "Where's so-and-so?" And I'm like, "Well, they're right. That must be them right there." Mm-hmm. And from behind me, he's like, "No, I'm right here." And I've never done this before. I've never just like blasted my light on, but it startled me so much. Like I put my headlamp on and nobody was there. And I still don't know, like we tried to figure out different angles. Could there have been somebody walking back there? We couldn't figure out how, and other people had seen these lights too. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of a common phenomenon there that these red, weird lights will show up. And I had that happen in one other place in Ohio, it almost looked like eyes, but they were just real tiny, not like you hear about eye glow or eye shine. It wasn't like that. Just these two red dots that looked electronic, but there was nothing there. And we looked for, was there like some kind of a marker on the trees? No. So that, I mean, I don't know if you call that paranormal. I just call it, I don't know what it was.
Right.
But that was strange.
Yeah, I've seen an orb, and I've been told, not very nicely, not to talk about it the way I do, but I wasn't happy when I saw it. I was really upset because I want to see a Bigfoot. I don't want to see an orb.
Right. Right. And you shouldn't be told that you shouldn't talk about it. If you're going to talk about
not talk about it. They were fine with me talking about the orb. It's that I kept saying, I'm so pissed that I saw an orb. I'm so mad. And my friend was like, some people would love to have seen that. Yeah. So you shouldn't downplay it. And I'm like, okay, that's great, but I don't want to see that. I want to see a Bigfoot.
I get it. I thought you meant, like, some people will say, oh, that will discredit you. And I'm like, no, if you have a weird thing happen, say it. Like, yeah. Because we don't know.
Yeah.
A lot of things that are considered paranormal, I think, can be explained. We just don't know how to explain them yet.
Yeah, no.
So someday they're not going to be paranormal anymore.
Right,
I'll hear ya.
Yeah, there's weird things that happen that I don't have a corner market on Bigfoot. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either.
On that note, do you think there's a connection between Bigfoot and UFOs?
Personally, I don't know. Like, I feel like I should have a better answer, but I don't know. Like, I don't think there has to be. Mm-hmm. I think that they really could be just like cross river gorillas or billy apes or the new orangutan that was found in Asia not too long ago. They could be a natural earthly thing. Right. So I don't think there has to be. I don't in my brain, I don't have to make that leap. Now I know there are a lot of reports of people seeing both. And so what do I do with that? I can't just ignore it. Do I focus on that? No. Because like I said, my interest is somewhere else, but I listen, and if it ends up being that, like I said, I don't have a problem with it. I have a really cool cast that I was bequeathed that somebody gave me. That
I hate that word.
Sam Sherry. I know. It was from Sam Sherry from the Chestnut Ridge in Pennsylvania.
Oh, right, yeah.
And one of those casts that was supposed to be with, the aliens, the UFOs and everything. So that's one of my prized possessions. But I don't know. I don't know.
Okay. No, it's okay. Those were from Cryptidville. And Tactical Bigfoot Research wants to know, when is Amy coming to New York to do some research?
Oh, man. I will tell you, I would love to. I absolutely love upstate New York. I think it's one of the most beautiful places ever. I've been there several times before I became interested in Bigfoot. Been over in the Adirondacks, which I love. And so I would love to come up there. I was supposed to be there actually a few years ago, and I was in New York, but it ended up that I had a friend who was in New York City during that same time, and I had the chance to go there and see the city and all of this stuff, and I'd never been, so I kind of tossed the camping away and went to the city.
Like, I mean, I would have too.
But I would love to be up there in New York. Lots of cool sightings up there. I usually I drive through the bottom of New York when I get over to certain parts of the Alleghenies, like in I can't even think of the county there, Bradford County. I'll go from Ohio that way, but I'd love to go. I don't know.
She doesn't have a definitive answer, but one day. Greg Samples, great question. If Amy could go searching for Bigfoot with any researcher, past or current, who would it be?
Oh, man, I have different answers. I know Shelley Covington, Montana, and even you yourself, have talked about, doing a girls only, female only trip, and I think that would be fantastic. So
absolutely.
If anybody does that, I'd love to be a part of it. So that would be one answer. Second place on my bucket list, and he's not even a Bigfoot researcher, but just, fascinating person and a good friend of mine, is Adam Davies. He's just such a good guy. I really like him. And so we were supposed to do something together this past summer with a group, with Extreme Expeditions Northwest, which I've done some stuff with them before, and then it got canceled. We were supposed to be out in Alaska. Yeah. It got canceled because of COVID, so I would love to do something else with that team. But I'd like to be out there with Tom Page, my friend, after hearing his adventures and all the old timers and stuff.
Absolutely. Cool. Well, you're on my bucket list to go research with, so
yeah, you're on list too.
So I think we should definitely make that a thing. Definitely. I've never been to Ohio. I'm just saying, 2021 goals.
Here and out in PA too.
Yes. Okay. Well, we'll make it a thing as soon as COVID calms down and I can travel freely about the country.
There's so many, that question, as soon as we're done, I'll be like, oh, I should have said this or that. There's so many.
I know. I would be the same way. And it's just, that's a really good question, but it's really difficult because, oh my gosh. I mean, can we break that into pieces of the country that I would like to go in, parts of the world?
This past year, I was going to go out with the Navajo. That got canceled, understandably, and so that group of people I would like to be with. I would love to research with J.C. Williams sometime. I think that he's one of the people that I would choose to be Bigfoot of the year or whatever word you want to. He's out there, and then I have been able, my dreams of being out with Derek and Shane and those guys out the OP have come true. So that's more amazing. Of that, please.
Yeah, those are also on my bucket list. So.
Yeah, you have to come. It's so great.
Oh, I can't. Yeah, I really want to. Okay, final question. What is Amy's second person. What is your end goal with your research?
My end goal, I have a couple different ones. Personally, I want to see a Bigfoot.
Definitively.
I want to see one, so I am absolutely sure they're real.
Right.
So it could just stop there, and I'm like, okay, they're real. All right. But as far as Project Zoobook goes, we've talked about that, or anything else what you were saying before. I would like to be a part of protecting the species. So the end goal would be, I feel that it's just a matter of time before they would be proven to be real if they're real, right? So I would like to be somebody that would advocate for them as a species. Yes. So whether that's, protective laws or however you'd have to go about it. But personally, I just would really like to see one to make sure that they really are real.
That's my end goal as well. I'm a believer, but I want to be a knower.
Yes.
And I think I'm a knower, but I want to have my own experience,
It depends on the day. Some days I wake up and I'm absolutely sure they're real. And then other days I'll be like, honey, am I wasting all my time?
Yeah.
I'm just being honest. But I don't think so. I don't think there's ever a waste of time. First of all, for something you're passionate about. And
Absolutely.
Secondly, just to be out in nature And how does that waste any time? It doesn't.
Yeah, no, I think, that's what I tell people. I'll come back from a weekend and they're like, did you find Bigfoot? And I'm like, no, but I got to be in one of the most beautiful places in Oklahoma or Arkansas or Texas or wherever. And any weekend that I can be in nature is a perfect weekend. If I have some Bigfoot activity, that's a perk. Yes, that's why I'm out there, but I've been doing this for 20 years and have not had a sighting, and so I get disgruntled and I get really sad because I keep going out and I don't have a sighting, I don't have an experience, and so I've learned to just be grateful to be able to go out. And
it's what makes you believable. It makes people trust you because you're not just out there feeling you have to make something up.
Right.
So, Peter Burns never seen one, and he's been doing it for how long?
Right. There's so many. Yes. There are quite a bit that have not seen one, and that gives me hope. I'm like, it's so frustrating. So, I get to go out in nature. I'm fine with that. That's my favorite place to be. That's, I tell people that's my church. Mother Nature, that's where I worship. So I'm completely fine with that, and it refills me, and I'm at peace.
Amen.
So, yeah.
Amen. It's true.
So thank you so much for coming on tonight, Amy. I'm just honored to have you on, and you already know that because I've already told you a million times.
Same way. I do. I feel like I sound like Tom Page now, but it just tickles me. But I feel the same way. Like I really don't feel worthy of that, but I appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, absolutely. Though I'm honored, and keep doing everything you're doing. Don't stop. Don't back off unless it's for some self-care. Don't let anyone get you down, because the things that you're doing, all these amazing things that are taking off for you right now, the things that you've told us about tonight and the things that you haven't shared with everybody, keep doing that, because you are kicking ass for the Bigfoot community and for female researchers everywhere, and that's something that's something that that's so important to all of us. So thank you for everything you do.
I feel the same way. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, you have a great week. Stay safe, stay sane, and keep doing what you're doing. It's great.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Good night.
Good night.
Night. Okay, everybody, that was an amazing show with Amy Bue. You guys, I love her so much. She's such a positive spirit and personality, and just, really gung-ho to go do everything that she's doing and do that for the Bigfoot community. Okay, so our next guest, like I said, we have Ladies Month coming up. Our next guest is Kathy Strain, who is one of my personal favorites. She is doing big things in the community as well. She's part of the North American Wood Ape Conservancy. Really knowledgeable on Bigfoot research, and years and years of experience. I cannot wait to talk to her. You guys be sure and tune in January 3rd, same time, same bat channel, 8:30 p.m. Central Standard Time on YouTube. And if you can't catch us live, you can always watch the next day, or you can catch us on Podbean or any podcast app of your choosing. If you don't see us on the podcast app that you listen to, just shoot me a message and let me know, and I will work to get that fed over to that feed for you. So, thank you for tuning into the show tonight. I hope you enjoyed it. Please drop a comment and let me know what you thought of the show, as well as who you would like to see me interview in the future. And don't forget to check out the Night Callers Bigfoot Radio social media sites that I mentioned earlier for extra content and info on upcoming shows. You guys stay safe, stay open-minded, and be kind, you guys. I will see y'all next time.